I'm calling this meeting of the Development Review Board to order. It is February 18th. The agenda shows 3 items before us, but the first item, 1 North Avenue, has been addressed, so we will not be covering that. We still have to take action on 276 Ethan Allen though, right? Yeah. Okay. All the communications have been posted online, minutes have been addressed. So with that, we will take the items in the agenda in the order in which they appear. So the first one is ZP-24-533, 276 Ethan Allen Parkway, which has a letter for time extension request. We can act just on the letter, or do we? Mary? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So we need a motion. I move to approve the letter. Or approve the extension.
They asked for a date certain.
I think there was one. June.
March 18th.
Possible agenda, and based on our calendar and process, it would be the
March 18th. So moved. Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Great. Our last agenda item is 72 Temple Street, Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity. Do we have the applicant here for that item?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
72 Temple Street. Do we have the applicant here for that one?
Yeah, it could be.
Habitat for Humanity.
Street.
If the applicant is the person online, would you put your hand up?
You're a neighbor, right?
Yes. I believe the applicant is still Robin Pierce because I see him.
I'm seeing, says camera. Camera, if you are the applicant for Temple Street, would you raise your hand? No, I do have Scott Guston here, who's the project manager.
Yeah, this is on Robin's radar. He had confirmed over the weekend that it was occurring tonight.
Yes, he told me too because I saw him last week.
Well, we are very on schedule, so.
Yeah.
I think we should wait a couple more minutes.
I think we should hear from the applicant first before neighbors.
Should we postpone? I agree, but maybe should we wait 2 more minutes? Do we need to, or is there any formal thing to postpone, or do we just say we wait 10 minutes?
Say we just wait 10 minutes.
Amongst yourselves.
Probably look at the agenda. It's okay. There's a public hearing, and then there's another one for me, so I don't have to be there right at 5. So.
Does anyone know if Rob's planning on coming in person?
I do not know if he's planning. He did last time.
Well, I had a question for staff on this one because what's listed as the prior landscape plan just looks like it's the same. It's the revised one in there twice.
No, so I think the fire is current state. Because it doesn't have the trees. The addition of
It is
the,
different.
It is
Yeah.
different. You'll see.
I couldn't compare it because last time what was uploaded was too blurry for us to see.
That was absolutely awful. This is nice. We can actually read this one.
Okay. Well, I retract my
But there's
question.
definitely a difference between the two.
Glad someone noticed because I struggled.
I think the list of the plants is the same, but yeah, the actual location is different. There's like 8 more trees, basically.
7 additional native replacement trees.
Yeah.
Slope stabilization was not there.
Everyone in our ability to have a record short meeting. We are on agenda item 72 Temple Street, but we are waiting for the applicant because our first two agenda items weren't really on the agenda today. So we're giving the applicant a few more minutes to show up, but that is the agenda item that we're on. If that's what you're here to speak to, we just want to have the applicant here first. Did you sign in? Please have other agenda items to go to. We go back to, there's no other agenda items.
Maybe we should have done this first and then.
So whatever.
Agreed to postpone the other one. Next one.
Double.
Yeah. 3 times.
I got out of most I was in the UK for a week and a half, and we got back on Friday. And then I returned to Philly on Sunday.
I'll let you know if anything changes.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, it was, it's felt like it came on again. I don't know. It's been a while since.
It was very surprising because I was gone for so long, so I just sort of scratched that much. That would be here.
I remember like when I first started, or first graduated and started a dealer, like I remember there were times where I wanted to work in the sidewalk, was like, above my head. It's like almost.
We have a phone number that matches the phone number under the applicant on the zoning application.
So if you are joining us online from 72 Temple Street, Scott, you remember what's the code you type in on a phone to raise your hand?
I think it's *7. If the phone number matches Garrett, that's probably Robin.
Can we unmute them?
I've asked my.
Hey, Robin, you're on mute.
Was everybody who's here to speak able to sign in? Sign in, just want to make sure.
No. You can't unmute them, you can only request.
I unmuted them and I asked them to unmute, but I can't do it. It's like that.
Their phone number appears to be on here, but they're not. Voicemail. Well, it is 5:10. What thoughts from board?
I think, hey, Robin, if you can hear us, you are muted and we need you to talk.
But we haven't heard anything.
Okay, so we are attempting to hear 72 Temple Street, but since we have not had a representative from the applicant team here who's able to speak, while it does look like a phone number is associated or not, hearing anything from you. So we will have to, need a motion to continue this to next meeting? Yes,
I move that we.
Somebody try calling them?
we
yes,
did
Mary did.
Move that we, let's go on this until the next available meeting. Even if it's not next time.
You have a second?
We've been talking about it, it was on his calendar. I guess so. I'll second the.
Would you prefer to wait longer? Is that what you're?
I think,
Do you want to call?
I
don't know,
would lean
it's
to
not-
trying to, because we have neighbors that have shown up.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to, if we have to wait an additional 5-10 minutes.
As neighbors, would you prefer to wait?
No, yes, I just had to put in for 2, 3 hours off from work. I work
Yeah.
out of the center.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's really hard to arrange that.
Yeah.
Supply chain.
okay, we
Yeah,
can,
So I can wait.
let's give it 10 more minutes before we
All right, so
reevaluate.
Motion's on hold. Your motion is up in a second.
Unseconded. I don't,
Is
well, we
asking
can't make a
about it.
decision, I don't think, until we've given them an opportunity. So we could certainly get to a point of, Scott has something to say.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I haven't heard anyone mention that if you're on a phone, you can unmute by pressing *6. If that's in fact our applicant and can hear me.
But there is a world that I think we could hear from the neighbors. But we
Hey, Robin.
won't be able to.
Robin, this is Miles. Okay, but you're on my cell phone. So I don't know why you can't call into the Zoom. Okay, well, you're here now, but it's very difficult to hear you because there's an echo.
Because it's not.
Yeah, we can hear that.
It's because the speaker here is.
Hold tight, we're trying to figure out the sound.
I think he has to do it on that.
Yeah, he has to.
He has to turn it off.
the Zoom meeting.
Can you turn off your Zoom sound? You there?
Yes, I'm here.
If you could turn your Zoom to mute, then we can hear you through the phone only.
Okay, just let me get the noise. I wasn't there.
So I think it's picking up.
I'm just gonna remove it.
I got it done.
I think we're good
Did
now.
that work?
That work? You there?
Yes, I'm here.
All
There we
right,
go.
sweet.
All right,
Okay,
Okay.
should we have the phone next to the speaker to
Yes.
pick it up for testimony?
yes. Robin's gonna need to,
And folks are gonna be sworn in.
Yes. Okay,
he needs it to the open.
we have everyone that we need now for 72 Temple Street. So anyone who wishes to speak on this item, if you would please raise your right hand and swear that the testimony that you give today is true and correct under pain and penalty of perjury.
It's a left hand.
I do, my wife is trying to connect from remote and she's wanting to know whether there's any way to, can you see her there?
Is she Lisa?
Yeah,
Okay.
and she wants to know how to unmute to speak.
She has to be let in.
Yeah,
to speak.
so normally the process would be she'll raise her hand and then
She raised her hand.
She's in now. So
She's in.
what
Okay.
we're gonna do is we're gonna hear from the applicant first on the updates that they have made.
Okay,
And then we will give an opportunity for the neighbors and anyone else who would like to speak on that item. So
okay.
Robin, if you can hear me okay, it would be great for you to give us a little bit of an overview of the updates that you made based on our commentary and feedback from last time. And anything else you wanted to share.
We've been working with the Vermont Nursery and Landscape Association. They redid their design. They addressed the aspects of slope stabilizing, changed the planting plan, in line with the DRB requirements and staff requirements. They put in some more deciduous trees. Everything that they're proposing to plant is native, which was not the case before some invasive species, or stuff like that. So it's more in keeping with the Vermont landscape. They believe that they met the task that was given to them. We're hoping to move forward and that was a project that actually did anything that would have been that had been some mistakes made on site. So stabilization measures are noted in the revised plan. There's a lot of seeding been done, there's a lot of mulching done to make sure that water retention is better than it had been before the construction started. In fact, that they have, with the engineering was put in to be less water happening than with the industries.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board for the applicant?
The slope stabilization, it is the new seeded soil, and that has already been done.
Yeah, that was done, but there's also some fabric put down to stabilize the soil, and they're going to plant through the fabric. They're not going to remove that fabric. So new species are going in. We'll go through the fabric, so the fabric will remain in place.
So this has been done since the last meeting?
Yes, it was done since the last meeting. The design was redone. I mean, you can see the plan there under slope stabilization. There's erosion control grass mix, erosion control blankets. And we're going to plant directly into the erosion control blankets, mulch rings, growing trees and shrubs, and a mulch layer on top of the garden beds. So we'll not be removing the erosion control blankets out of there, we'll be stabilizing even more.
Has anything else been done since the last meeting?
In terms of landscaping, no, we have not been on site that. We've been pushing pretty hard to finish the two homes internally.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Do you have any, so for the area on the right side, it's seed native, perennial, and shrubs, and the dogwood stakes. So is that a mix of native flower seed and the native shrubs as well in that area?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any concern about the additional shading from the new deciduous trees over the native, like flower meadow that would be there?
No, I mean, a lot of those flowers will come up in the spring before the trees leave out. They'll be the flowers and stuff that the bees and so on go to. So those are early flowers.
There were also some concerns last time that the plan wasn't accurate in terms of the existing canopy in, I guess on this picture, the upper left corner. So can you confirm what is in that corner now and then what you have planned? Is it just planting these two new trees? Or is there additional canopy and naturalized area that you plan on bringing back?
Yeah, as you noted, there are two trees upper left, two trees upper right, and underneath that there'd be a naturalized area before you get to the lawn.
And the current state is, there's nothing there?
There's really not much. Yeah.
So what's listed as canopy is not really canopy?
Well, canopy is Yeah. To the back of the property, there are some trees still there, yes. This really addresses new plantings. It doesn't really go into detail on what remains from the construction area.
I do have a question, Robin, this is Miles. Did your landscape architect consult with either the neighbors to the east or the west when they developed this replanting plan?
That's not my understanding. I don't think they did ask.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, with that, we will hear from the neighbors, and then Robin, you will have the opportunity after that to respond. Do you want to go first since you're sitting here,
You want me to
sir?
go? I'm John Silman.
Can you come sit up here, please? Thank you.
Say my name. John Sima, 3A Rockland Street, one of the neighbors onto the east of the property being developed. I don't really know where to begin, but Ally, who co-owns the Rockland condominium, the two-unit condo there that is to the east. But their property line has submitted some comments, and I just wanted to underscore all of those. We're in agreement on all those points. I would add a few more though, so I wanted to stress a few things that she didn't mention in her comments. Number one, there is this issue that I brought up from the very beginning here, when I first attended your very first meeting regarding tree clearing, concern about stormwater runoff, not stabilization per se. That seems to be all we're hearing, stabilization, we're going more mulch and various attempts to plant saplings, you know. That issue, leaving it aside for now, the stabilization question, the stormwater issue is much more paramount, in my opinion. That slope with that yellowish, the two circles now where the two deciduous tree plantings are planted, that slope, except the very first entrance to where that arrow is going up the driveway, once you pass that arrow and go maybe another 15, 20 feet, the slope turns into a radical steep, as your own representative came out and measured here, 60-degree slope. And it's about 15 feet down. And actually at the bottom is 4 propane tanks that are ours. Okay, it's set back a little bit from the line. But for example, a truck today, just get it a little off on the stormwater, how steep that is. The truck was plowing that driveway and got stuck on the edge of that today, okay? And you can't even see it. It's trying to back up and plow, it's crazy. We watch them, it's very difficult. If a truck or a car goes over that edge, even though there's a curb, with all the snow, it's all built up, they're gonna land down in that ditch and maybe even hit propane tanks. I mean, that's just one thing I was thinking about today when I watched the pump. But the stormwater runoff is a very serious thing. That slope is like an accelerator. You can plant the rye they have on there now, and I don't think they've done anything, by the way, since the last meeting. Not that anything, I'm there every morning. I didn't see anything done on the slope. So I'd like to have them establish that as a fact, what day it was done, who did it, because I don't think a single thing has been done on the slope since the last meeting. And that's what he said, right? So that slope is a big concern. What are they proposing to do to stop future stormwater runoff? Where all that snow that's on there now is all going to just melt and run down into our area. And it comes down now. I have videos of this, I have photos of this, and it floods my garden, our dog yard, our walkway. Never had any flooding in there ever. We've been there 20 years plus. So that's all started as a result of this slope that accelerates and captures rain. They channel the rain above out, you know, down. That's a street issue. That's your stormwater runoff issue out in the street. That's going to be a problem, I predict. But I'm talking about what runs down from the capturing of the rain on that slope. they don't have any proposed way to channel that. The city did send somebody out who proposed a number of things, and Public Works was supposed to be given this. I don't know if you've seen this. There's a number of options available to address the stormwater in a more viable way. So that's the one thing I wanted to add. One of two things. The other item is this has nothing to do with restoration of shade and privacy on the western sky from our vantage, okay, looking out. These trees in my lifetime won't ever get to a point where they'll provide the privacy and the shade that they did before. They recklessly, and I would argue illegally, violated state statute, remove these trees. Okay, and that to me needs to be addressed. I mean, how can they just come in and plant these saplings? And you know, what are they, 6 inches, 6 to 8 feet? Deciduous trees that grow approximately 12 inches a year. You know, I mean, what do they expect us to do in terms of restoring any privacy or shade? It's just cosmetic. They're actually making a mockery of this here, in my opinion, than what they're proposing. It's a mockery. It's insulting. If I were on your side, I would be insulted. So this, we have seen for 2 summers nothing but reckless, brazen, arguably illegal behavior. You know, with their hired gun, the excavator, who I won't name, but you know who he is. And they've just been out there doing whatever they want to do. After the fact, we'll deal with it. You know, facts on the ground, as lawyers call it, and then live with it. Pay the fines, whatever. So how is the board, I'm going to just conclude, how is the board going to address stormwater runoff and privacy and shade in a viable, realistic way? And the only thing I would add to this is I would propose that they build a cedar, stepped up barrier fence. And this would help the safety issue, kids and cars and other things falling off that slope edge. Along that slope top, along the curve, on our side of the curve, up to the very part of the driveway end. You know, it could be stepped up. There's very nice ways to do that. It provides shade. Then there, you know exactly what I mean. And it would also provide some safety, degree of safety, and it would also provide some privacy, that resource and privacy. Okay, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions from the board from this member?
Is there anything in particular that you would like to see as a, so I know, right, flowers and like meadowing in general has a better effect on stormwater runoff than simple lawns effectively. So some erosion. Is there other remediation measurements you would like to see?
I'm not an expert on remediation. I really don't know. I know that the city has a team, I forget what they are called, but they come out and they do an assessment and offer grants for stormwater abatement, runoff mitigation issues. You know, that, I forget the name of the organization. Work with them, they work with you. But they came out and provided a full assessment of options available. I was told she was going to send it to the development review board. If you'd like, I can submit that to you. As the options are all there. I don't think the slope, you know, planting more mulch and some shrubs or whatever it is they've got planned for that area there. You know, the ground is frozen solid, right? So we know what it's like when you get a heavy rain in this kind of conditions we're facing now. We can turn this all into rain tomorrow. You know, it's happened many, many times in the last few years. And you get hydrostatic pressure build up in around foundations and so on. So the more water that pulls, that's just going to all melt, run right down. It's not going on in the street. It's going onto our property. There's no way that's going anywhere else.
Can I clarify one thing? So I know you're concerned about the slope.
Yeah.
But it's the surface area of that hill that collects the rain. Okay, so it's not going to involve more volume of rain falling on it. Yes, the rain will fall. The runoff will fall faster. It's going
It will fall faster.
But I don't think you're necessarily seeing an increase in volume of water from that property coming on.
No, not necessarily, because it's, you know, well, I don't know if the volume is going to be larger. It may not be, but it's definitely not going to be absorbed into the ground like it used to be in that space. So they have that driveway. I don't think anybody here has been out there, but that driveway sits in the tree, the zone, permitted tree buffer zone. That's the tree buffer zone where the driveway is. They put that in there willingly, knowingly, even though they were not permitted to cut all the trees down to do that. So what are they going to do after the fact? They've already, and then they built up. Backhoe came in and just piled more dirt and gravel and built this huge wall. And it's, I don't know if it's more rain, but it's an accelerant. And we've got propane tanks sitting up. They're not very stable. They sit down at the bottom there, and the water runs right through and under the propane tanks. So, see, it used to just absorb. It was a natural sort of evolution of that ground that absorbed a lot of water. And it never really became a problem for us. So we had a lot of buffer in it. So we might get a little trickle down, but nothing pooling. Now, since this development, especially since the trees were cleared the first time, it started to form. I have all the videos. Streams, little trickles down, little valleys that form. You can see where the water is going to go. There's no way out for the water. So whether it's more or not, I don't know, Miles. But the concern is it's an accelerant.
Yep.
And there's a lot of volume there now, like snow, and that's all going to have to go in our yard.
Yeah, but you can confirm that, that driveway stormwater is intended to have a full curve along that eastern end. So anything falling on the roofs, on the driveway, is going to be diverted down.
That's right.
So that is the case.
I have a video of that. Yeah, it does do that. It's quite a scene because the whole area around the duplex, all that light green that's around, is growing. I think they planted some rye on the left, some rye on the right. That was back in the late summer. And they put down that netting, or whatever they call it. And that grew up pretty fast. But it's sort of a bowl shape to that, and that area. And it just channels all the water right down into the driveway. And the driveway is going to become the river and out into the street. And then they have a system to catch some of that up above. There are a few drains in there in the driveway parking areas, but I can tell you it isn't going to capture it fast enough. So there's a lot. You already have issues at the base there, Temple and Brockville. We've had to have guys come out, Public Works, and do things to fix that. Because the water pulls up and starts backing into the garage and up into our sidewalk area there. So that's all I wanted to say, but if you have more questions, I can certainly answer.
Scott, any plans or remediation steps that would normally be water.
Scott, that question was for you. Did you hear?
I heard the first part of it.
Okay. Normally those remediation steps would be from water resources, right?
Yeah, and well, Mr. Suma was testifying. I was looking online to verify, and I did. Back in May of 24, the city's water resources reviewed and approved an erosion prevention and sediment control plan for construction. And there's also a post stormwater management plan that was reviewed.
Yeah, that's for the stormwater erosion.
Yeah, there's, according to my notes,
well,
there is an approved plan.
Oh, there's an approved plan,
Yeah.
yeah, but see, the thing is, when I was told here in the very first meeting about the stormwater concern I had, that would be mitigated by the tree buffer zone that was supposed to be left in place. That would be part of the plan. And it didn't happen. So now we're faced with a fait accompli here, right? You've got a driveway that they built in violation of your permit in the location it is exactly located. So they had gone to the other side at one point and were the newly hired, the successor to the excavator who was told to stay off the job, I guess, from my sources. Not sure if it's just PR or what, but they hired somebody else who informed me that they were gonna put the driveway on the other side, which would have probably been a much smarter idea. To the left, so it would have gone to the left, not to the right. So the left tip of that duplex, can't see the number, that's number one duplex, but the driveway would have gone that way.
Well, we can't really speak to what they might have done.
Well, that's right, but they drove it right into the tree buffer zone. They paved right in there.
Well, it's done now. So
I know, well, that's their
How
plan.
do we
Yeah, we can't rip
address
it
it
up,
from
right?
this point?
Yeah.
And so I have to assume that this statement here from staff that there's an improvement plan in place is current for the current conditions, and plus they have new design for erosion control from landscape company, who knows sort of people who know how to do that kind of thing, they know what plants to use and so on. I have to assume that that's going to go ahead to work as well.
Well, yeah, I'm okay, leaving aside the erosion issue, I wanted to focus on the stormwater runoff, because in our direction, not the city's direction.
Well,
That
you have
seems
that
to be
slope that's heading in
undiscussed.
your direction, and regardless of it, so that some sort of landscape plan to control runoff down, other than completely reconfiguring the landscape there, have to, some sort of landscape plan that would control the water as it goes down, so it doesn't create gullies and rivulets and so on, out and end up in your property.
Well, there is a series of options made available to us through the city's agency, whoever it was that does this. I don't have what I can send it, and they agreed, by the way, and they provided a lot of options so that they thought that the board should consider. So so maybe we can revisit or take a look at it. Sure. And as part of the approval would be to include one of these. They're reasonable proposals.
Yeah.
If everyone's okay with that, I'd love to hear from the other neighbor. Yes. So, do you want to share your thoughts? Just share your name and your address again.
I'm very delicate, and I own the lot, I guess it's 68, which is adjacent to this piece of property on the west. Left, yeah. And I'm sorry, I left my notes home, so I'm trying to scribble and go by memory. I think there's been enough documentation presented identifying tree removal in according to a schedule that didn't exist or something. Back in February of 2023 is when the original plan of tree removal for the construction of the building. And those trees were marked clearly, okay? And somebody came in and did cut those trees down, okay? And no problem. Back later on that year in December, there was a permit issued, which I did not get a copy of to attend the meeting. But anyway, there was a permit issued that dealt with approval or to construct a house, duplex on. And according to Scott's letter to you people, okay, he identified this, that it was the construction of the house and associated site improvements. That's the loophole. It's really bugging us, the site, improvements, because that could be interpreted as tree removal. That's a site improvement. So my take is, as a professional engineer dealing with issues like this, that's what they did, covered themselves under, the site improvements all throughout the summer. And finally, around the time frame when the tree was falling on John's house, okay, big meeting. And around that time, there was an order given to not cut any more trees. Okay, definitely, that was, don't cut any more trees, right? After that meeting, they didn't cut any more trees, they pushed them down. So again, they like to ski around So that's relative to trees. You asked about the canopy. Now, I don't know if there was a more recent landscape plan presented or not, but at least the one I had did not show this. Fine, because I live here. Okay, they identified native woody shrubs. I don't know why. Doesn't matter. This canopy does not exist. These trees were all pushed down all the way to the property line. I don't know what Bernie Sanders has to say because he lives up here, but next to him, the neighbors talk and they're not too thrilled with the fact that now they can see the house. Where they, before, when they left the trees here, they didn't see the house. Again, it's what I'm identifying is the attitude of Habitat and Humanity. That's really the number one. I don't know where you sit on this. You've heard the phrase possession is 9/10 of the law. Also in the construction business, it works a different way, which is I'm gonna do what I want. Now come back and do something about it. And that exists all the time. And I used to fight that all the time. So when I dealt with my employees and my men, I said, okay, it's great to complain or identify something's wrong. Don't do that unless you come into my office with a solution. Then I'm happy to discuss it with you. Here's my solution, and I don't know, honestly, the board's position, you know, what you're in charge of. When I was on a fire commission, I knew that that commission was in charge of them. Let's see, okay, what I resolve, or what I suggest is stop the activity on this project until the issues, okay, mine are different, John's, these issues get resolved. Not only resolved by talk, because I had enough of habitats, nice, smooth attitude, okay, promise the world or promise what they're going to do, and they do nothing. I'm sick of it. So wait until things are done, then inspected to verify they were done according to the plan. Then after that, issue a permit for occupancy. I realize my situation, you have, I don't think anything to do with me, you know, my loss. So I have to go through legal channels, I guess. So that's all I can say.
Is there anything in the landscaping plan in particular that you would like to see that would address some of the issues that you have?
All I can say is it's the way they originally chose to deal with the property. I had a nice terraced arrangement here. They ruined that on me. And they said, I can't remember the guy's name, oh yeah, they'll put it back. Well, I got that in writing, but they done nothing. They took this property line and scooped it out. In my opinion, they didn't have to. We're talking about viewpoints of how you would manage property. There wasn't any need to scoop it out, but that's what whoever was in charge of their site plan, that's what they decided to do. So they had them put it back, doesn't matter to me. Okay, but putting native shrubs, I don't know, what's the purpose of that? So, and it's so sad because the property along the property line here, it was a nice slope down. No, they carved it out. You know, in my opinion, they ruined the site with regards to siting the dwelling. But again, it's personal opinion, it's background information, you know, past experience.
Is there anything with the landscape plan, or would you want additional trees or shading or anything that in particular.
No.
It's more, your issues are more with the general project than with this particular plan for replacement in general.
And their attitude, where's this whole thing? I think they're making a mockery out of this. It's only, so I like this, but I didn't say that. I like to also see that Habitat Humanity is not allowed or permitted to do another job in the state of, in the town of Burlington for 100 years. I'm getting off the track, but let's say you fine them $100,000. Okay, you say, hey, that's big money. This corporation's got money behind it. Even though they claim to be nonprofit, it's a big organization, it's a big business.
We don't levy fines, so that's
Yeah,
not.
that would be beyond our purview.
I know, I'm just giving you a scenario,
Yeah.
being in their chair, okay? All right, so I got fined $100,000, big deal. So I go sell the property, $300,000. That's cheap, that's neighborhood. Okay, 100,000 gets to be paid to you guys. I talk about 200,000 because I had free labor.
Okay, well, we're not talking about fine, yeah.
And they can sell it, you know, and then.
But I want to second Barry's occupancy permit point that you do have that.
That's built in regardless there. That is a standard process.
That's right. You can deny it though until they've met.
That doesn't, the board
Oh, you
doesn't
don't.
deny
The board
it. That
doesn't.
is
Who's
an
doing that?
inspection office.
Okay, so you won't make a decision yourself.
No,
Okay.
Our purview is effectively to approve or deny permits based on their compliance with zoning
Okay.
and
Thank you for
additional requirements.
I know we're getting a little bit back and forth here, but I do want to check if,
Or
yes.
request, if there's going to be any kind of site visit, okay, can I be included in that? That's my,
We don't typically do site visits, so we would.
and I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Plus, we're at a stage, I mean, this was approved months ago, when we would have done a site visit prior to the approval of the project. This has already been approved, and so.
Do you know when the last hearing day was here? You have that?
Yeah,
We can check the last time the landscape plan came before us. That's all that is before us, is the updates to the landscape plan. I know there's other people here who may want to speak on this issue, so I just wanted to ask if you were here to speak on this item, no, and then we had Lisa online. You are muted, but if you would like to speak, you could unmute yourself and let me know if there's anything that you would like to add to what the other neighbors have shared.
Hi, sorry about that. Took me a second to unmute. Thank you for letting me speak to you by Zoom. I appreciate that. I just will keep it brief. I want to call to your attention the written statement from Ally, the head of the HOA here. I agree with all of her points there. We discussed it at length and she summarized them in her statement. I just want to also preface what I'm about to say with what I think you understand, which is we have sort of like a greater lack of trust in what you, with Habitat than what you might expect one would have with an organization that has a, proposed humanitarian agenda. And I just want to make sure you understand that what underlies that lack of trust is everything that's happened up until this point and every sort of interaction we've had with them. That being said, I just want to say that as well, to John's point regarding runoff, I think part of the issue that hasn't been discussed, and we don't need to discuss it, is that when those trees were removed, our concern, not just for runoff, but also for future plantings, is that the root systems were also removed, and those root systems were an important part of this ecosystem. So we have concerns about the absence of those roots. I also have a number of questions about this proposed landscape plan that I don't think are going to be able to be adequately answered by anybody other than the person who created the plan. And so I guess my proposal would be that we are, can be in touch with that person to actually find out what this means, because I have a lot of questions about it. And then finally, I'm going to say that Blue Stormwater was the organization that visited with us. It's the city or UVM organization, I don't know, some kind of grant. And they did actually give us a written statement which outlined a number of suggestions for habitat in terms of specific plantings, et cetera. And I haven't had a chance to compare the lengthy list of potential plantings on the landscape plan with the list of potential plantings on the Blue Stormwater plan. But that might be a good idea as well. And we also got a lot of suggestions from this person regarding our own property, some of which would be possibly somewhat subsidized in order to protect the property from runoff. But and then the last thing I'm going to say is just real quick, because I'm hoping this goes on the record, but that slope again, I hope no children are going to be living in that house, because as a mom, I would be afraid constantly that my kid was going to go over the edge. Therefore, I agree with the idea of the cedar trees that are already like somewhat mature being planted as a line across there, because at the driveway's edge, because I do think that would help contribute to safety. So thank you.
Thank you. Can you just confirm your address for the record, Lisa?
Sure. My address is 3A Rockland Street.
Thank you. And then just want to let you know, procedurally, all questions are typically addressed to the board. So if there are questions that you had about this landscape plan, we would be happy to hear them.
Okay, sure. So one of my questions is, there's a lengthy list of potential plants that could be planted, and I guess I was kind of wondering why that is. Why not just pick one so that we can know what it's going to be? The other question I had was, what is the plan in case these plants, or especially the trees, fail, given that they're being planted on a slope, which is different than planting trees in a flat area? There's different considerations in terms of how to plant the tree, et cetera. There's kind of different contributing factors that might contribute to the failure of the tree. So my question would be, what happens if the trees don't grow? What happens if they die? My third question is, who's going to maintain the slope? Is anybody maintaining the slope, or is it just supposed to be sort of like wild overgrowth, which is fine. I just was curious. And then I would say, just echo John's comment that the idea of planting 2 trees is not really adequate to address the loss that we've incurred. And I'll just say that on the drawing there, all the green sort of on the left side, that isn't there. So that's a little inaccurate. And those would be my questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Or is there anyone else online who's looking to speak on this item? Okay. So we're going back to the applicant now. You're welcome to respond to any of the things that you heard from the neighbors. I think the one thing that would be helpful to address is just the piece of whether this landscape plan is in agreement with and aligned to the erosion and sediment control plan that was approved last year, since this plan has changed.
Yeah, my understanding is the plan was updated to be more in line with the erosion stabilization proposal. Also to address what Lisa said, the plants will all have a 1-year guarantee. If they damage in the first year, they will be replaced. Generally, if a plant lasts a year, it's going to survive. The terrace slope generally will be staked. They'll all be planted with the Commercial Landscape Association, and the reason they need a spread It depends on what's available when it comes time to plant. If we pick 1, 2, 3 species, you find 2 of them aren't available, and let's go back to the drawing board. But they give a range so that if they couldn't find some, then there'll be others. Obviously, they're probably not going to be planted until spring. And that's when they'll finalize all the species. They're not anticipating that many won't be available, but there's always a chance for 1 or 2 aren't available. And they'll substitute, they might substitute a different maple or a different oak for the ones that they've specified that may not be available when the time comes to plant. And we did, just to speak to stormwater runoff, we were required to put in a retention basin, slow down stormwater runoff from the site. That is in place, and that was one of the reasons the driveway changed, because of where ledge was, and we could put the retention basin in. It's basically beneath the porous pavers, and you can see on the plan.
Robin, 2 of the neighbors have commented that the area marked canopy does not actually currently exist. Can you speak to that?
I think that's an illustrative thing. It may be further back. I honestly don't know. There are some trees remaining up there. I don't think it's as dense as this shows. If we planted some more native species to make up for that, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Any other questions from the board?
Sorry, one more, Robin. The retention pond, is that kind of on the west, the southwest of? Yeah. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I might potentially suggest, I don't think it's something required, but if Holly from Greenleaf, who did some of this design, might be able, or you could arrange maybe something with the neighbors to just go over maybe some of the concerns that might be helpful. I don't know if
I'd be very happy.
Yeah, I agree. The landscape, what plants go where and why, usually that's left up to the landscape design company to know what that is. And so that's what that would be. And to her second question, what happens if the plants fail? Usually you have a contract with the landscape company, and the plants fail, they come out and address that. It's the plan, the initial plan, that's going to be critical here to control runoff down that slope.
So yeah, I didn't quite hear your first question. Second question is, if that will be replaced, extremely a 1-year guarantee, the council plans. So if anything happens, it will be replaced.
Yeah.
And first question, so.
The first question was just whether the landscape designer, it looks like Holly Greenleaf, would be willing to potentially talk to the neighbors just to maybe walk them through the plan and erosion control and why the plant species were chosen. That might be helpful.
Sorry. Yeah, there will be a group of 10 to 16 members of the Vermont Nursery Landscape Association who will be on site, and they will be planting all vegetation. Landscape architects, landscape designers, landscape contractors, they will be the people planting all the species.
Yeah, I was saying, do you know if they would be willing to talk to the neighbors about some of the concerns?
Absolutely. I'm sure Hollywood, okay. I will talk to her tomorrow and try and set up
Thank you.
time to get that happen.
Okay.
Scott, did you want to jump in with something?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to point out that standard zoning permit condition number 6, to paraphrase, requires replacement of required landscaping within a year of becoming diseased or dying.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and close the meeting overall, but begin at deliberative. Thank you.
I move move to require the applicant to resubmit a landscaping plan that has a existing condition base plan with an accurate inventory of all existing trees, and then a proposed tree planting plan upon that,
We have a second.
with a consideration for more evergreen trees along the eastern property boundary.
Is there a second?
Yes, I do.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, and just say, in addition to, landscape plan in place to,
Yeah, with, yes, so somehow the new landscaping plan to closely, just propose mitigation of runoff specifically to the property to the east. I don't know how we,
I think in alignment with the approved,
in alignment with the approved erosion control plan.
because I think that the
Okay, so
answer on that was
yeah.
not crystal clear. Closer to the plan was what I heard him say, which is
Right.
not. Thank
Right, so that the new landscaping plan, in addition to showing all proposed new plantings, should be in alignment with the erosion control.
There's an amendment that's happening, okay, with that.
Oh, yes.
One more proposed amendment.
Yes.
Or make an addition, since Robin said he was okay with it, having a discussion with the neighbors and the landscape architect to go over questions.
I don't know,
Can we require that during the next hearing, the landscape architect is present?
We could ask.
Request
Yeah, we could
someone
request.
who
I know, I suspect,
speak to the
I
specificity.
think that's just asking for a lot of angst.
Yeah.
make a,
I mean, we can have it be similar, right, where it's just, we could take the questions that were asked this time, ask them just so they're on the record at the end.
yeah, I think it might be too dangerous to have a hearing with her there, so I think I'm gonna keep that out of
With
it.
Drummond.
Yeah, keep that out of the motion. And I'm not sure whether this is the right time, but theoretically, if this isn't here, we would want to think about that. I don't know if now is the right time to put it in, but
No, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that opens the opportunity for us to come back
Yeah.
the third time and say, wait, we still haven't addressed this privacy and aesthetic area, it's a.
Any other discussion? Be clear on what the motion is.
Krista.
Right, with that, all those in favor?